But we did that already. I just love my son. I have found a much greater joy than flying in first class. And that is giving that seat to somebody who deserves it more than I do. I try very, very hard when I got that first class upgrade. When I get to the airport, I look for a U.S. soldier in uniform. And I tell him, I don't know what the hell you've been through this week, but whatever it was, you probably deserve that seat more than me. Because inevitably, the flight attendant will find out what I did, and she will come back from first class to my seat with that lovely bottle of expensive first class wine, and she'll pour it for me. Everybody wins. Well, on a recent trip, and it finally occurred to me, this trip was when I was coming back from Midwest Fur Fest this past year. Midwest Fur Fest, they like to hold their convention in Chicago in November.
Wow.
And, well, sometimes it gets a little weathery there, if you know what I mean. And when I was coming back from Midwest Fur Fest, I got myself to the airport, and the thing is, with that first class and all those miles and everything, I also get a club membership, the executive club, and they have this there too. So I try very, very hard to make sure that it doesn't go to waste before I get on the plane. And usually when I get on the plane, the flight attendants will know I'm coming from about 30 feet off.
Oh,
and I'll get on the plane and I'll walk up to them and I got it covered, I got it covered. I'll walk up and say, hi, I got a medical condition. I'm an alcoholic.
Oh, shit.
I am in grave danger of becoming sober by the time we land. And I'm counting on you to make sure that doesn't happen. I'll be right here. And they're usually good about it. Well, on this particular trip, I was pre-gaming in the club, you might say. And there was a quiet little corner. Because I always seek out the quiet little corner. Nobody else is there, I'm all by myself. And I set up my little laptop there, and I'm sitting down and I'm looking at, pictures, sending mom an email and everything, telling Sven I'm gonna need wine, getting all ready. And while I was sitting there, that guy came in. You know the one, the guy who's got his cell phone here, and apparently the cell phone speaker is not really working too well, or maybe he's hard of hearing because he sat down and immediately said blah 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 into the cell phone. Now, there's various things you can do. You can scowl at him. You can give him that angry look. You can sigh, and, try to indicate your displeasure. Sometimes that doesn't work. That's when you have to get creative. Here's what I suggest. It's what I did that night. If you have your laptop, turn the speaker up all the way. Go to YouTube and search for the words "sweet transvestite." And start blasting that as loud as you can, because the guy on the other end will hear that. Funny thing was, this guy started giving me the look. He's blah, 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 and growling at me. So I got up, started grooving with it. I'm just a sweet transvestite. Sweet transvestite. Transylvania. And he got up and went away. I got what I wanted. So I finished pre-gaming. And when I got up to stumble my way to my plane, I was going by, and you know sometimes when you drink, your eyes get a little bleary, right? And you have trouble seeing. And I went by the little display, and I'm looking at my flight, I'm looking, oh look, it's going to Cancun. That says cancel. Well, that's not good. I got to get back to work. Let me go talk to the lady over here. I went back to the lady and I said, my flight's been Cancuned. What do I do? She said, you want to go to Raleigh? I said, I did kind of have my heart set on it. It's rather why I'm here, you know. Well, you know, now let's go to Cancun instead. Let's just do that. So, no, I couldn't afford that. So, well, she said, okay, your flight cannot take off because apparently there's bad weather here in Chicago. And I said, well, that kind of goes without saying. It's sort of like saying, hi, this is New York City, it's dirty, you know? Hey, I'm from Philly, I can say that, all right? So I said, well, what am I going to do? I need to get back there. And she said, well, we can reroute you. I said, now wait. My flight to Raleigh can't take off because of bad weather, but a flight going somewhere else can take off? And she said, that's what it says here. I said, well, it's going south. You know, they don't deal well with snow in the south. Okay, if it's what I have to do, because I am not staying overnight here. It's just out of the question. So where am I being rerouted through? And she said, we can reroute you through Newark, New Jersey. I said, get me a hotel.
Yeah.
Anybody here from Newark? Thank God. I am not saying that it's a filthy, hellish cesspool.
But it is.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm from Philly, I'm allowed. So I said, okay, what did I do to you? Why are you doing this to me? And she said, well, you only have to be in Newark for 3 hours. I said, oh, that's like saying I only have to be in solitary confinement for 6 months. It'll pass. All right, give me the flight to Newark, you witch. I got no problem. So apparently, the flight to Newark, they're going this way instead of this way, and it was a very narrow storm. So we flew to Newark, and I sat down in the club. Now, I was already, you know, there, but I had 3 hours. 1, 2, 3, okay. So, every 10 minutes I kept looking up at that little display to make sure it still said Raleigh on time. And finally, when it was getting ready, I picked up my bag and I dragged it off. And just right then and there, we're back to Cancun. I'm like, okay, this is no longer funny. So I went to the guy at the counter. And I said, hi, and he went, mm. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I got a problem. My flight is Cancun. What am I going to do? And he said, okay, let's see. This, by the way, was Monday, and I had to be back to work Tuesday in the morning. And he looked and he said, there's nothing going out tonight. And I said, why? I mean, what's the problem? He said, it's because of weather. And I said, I left that back in Chicago. He said, it says weather. And there's a big picture window. And I looked at it, and I'm seeing stars and a beautiful silvery moon. And I said, I failed to see the weather. What weather are they seeing? And he said, I don't know what to tell you, sir. It says right here, your flight is canceled due to weather. And I said, okay. Let me walk you through this, okay? Let me walk you through this. You see that sky? Do you notice that sky is devoid of clouds? It is devoid of snow. It is devoid of precipitation of any sort. He looked at the computer and he said, it's also devoid of airplanes. I had to give him that one.
Yeah.
I said, so what are my choices? He said, well, the next flight I can put you on is going to leave at 7:30 a.m. I said, oh God. He said, Thursday.
What the hell?
No. And I said, I am not staying in this filthy cesspool of a city any longer than I have to. What is it going to take for me to get out here in the morning? And he looked at his thing and he said, well, I can get you on at least 3 other flights, except none of them go to Raleigh. I said, well, that sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? He said, it'll get you out of Newark. I said, deal. I wound up the next morning taking a train to Philadelphia and going from Philadelphia back to Raleigh. That was an interesting circumstance. It was kind of good to see Philadelphia again, though. You know, I do miss it in a way. Kind of the way you miss a really good case of herpes. Okay. Philadelphia is also kind of a filthy cesspool, but it's my filthy cesspool, right? Now, that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. Does it show? What time is it? I keep losing track. Oh, don't get too much.
7 minutes.
Time. What?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. 7 minutes. Okay, 7 minutes. What can I say in 7 minutes? Oh, I'll tell them a story. How's that?
Hey, genius.
I can tell them a recent story. I can tell them something happened at Anthrocon.
Yes.
I think I want that. You guys know who Jim Cummings is? Voice actor.
Yes.
Arguably the 21st century Mel Blanc. He was our guest of honor this year. Now, we bring our guests of honor in big stretch limousines because Uncle Kage likes to impress them. Right? We want to impress them. So, the deal that the limousine driver gets is, okay, when you're 10 minutes out with my guest of honor, I want you to call me so I can go down there and I can be all impressive and I can be like, yes, I'm Dr. Conway, I'm your host for the weekend here. Thank you very much for coming and let this gentleman show you up to your room. If you need anything, you can just call me. Jim's flight was not getting in until about 12:10 a.m.
Oh, God.
But I'm a dedicated man, so I stayed up. I waited. And some very, very good friends waited in the lobby with me. And somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 o'clock in the morning, remember I'm old, I got a phone call on my little smarty phone down here. Gentleman saying, yeah, according to the GPS, I'm about 10 minutes out. I said, that's great, I'll meet you at the corner. Sorry? Yeah. So I went out, and I was waiting, and waiting a good half hour. And I started to get very nervous, and the phone rang again. And I picked it up, and it was the driver. He said, yeah, I think they gave me the wrong address. I said, dude, it's the convention center. It's a giant white building on the river. Keep driving until the front tires are wet. You won't be able to miss it. And he said, it's a 1000 Penn Avenue, right? I said, yes, that's 1000 Penn Avenue. And there was a pause. He said, oh, I see what the problem is. They gave me the wrong zip code.
Oh, God.
I said, dude, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
He said, I'm up in Wilkinsburg. Now, anybody who doesn't know the anatomy of Pittsburgh, Wilkinsburg is where the doctor puts the gloved finger.
Oh, shit.
1000 Penn Avenue in Wilkinsburg is a burned-out crack house. That's where he took Jim Cummings, our luminary guest of honor.
Oh, my God.
Now, I found out later from Jim I found out later that Jim had dozed off, and when he woke up, the limousine was parked under an iron bridge, with the driver looking around saying, "This can't be right. This ain't the Western. They ain't fooling me." And I told the guy, "Look, just get him here. Here's the zip code." I also found out later that the driver couldn't figure out how to use the GPS. Jim had to take the GPS and plug in the address and read the directions off to the man through the little window in the back. Wow. And according to Jim, it's like, "Okay, you're going to come to a light, you're going to turn left." Yeah, I got it. "Which way am I turning again?"
Oh my God.
As we were approaching 2 o'clock in the morning, the limousine finally pulled in front of the Westin. Those of you who know the layout of the Westin know there's a little island in front. Big Blue Fox caught this on video. It was grand. The limousine pulled in, came around the bend, bumped its rear tire up on the curb, and then BAM!
Oh my God.
He also caught Uncle Kage shouting, "Motherfucker!" The limousine stopped, and the driver, if I can call him that, got out. You see, usually I'm paying for a chauffeur. This man looked like an auto mechanic. He had on a gray, short-sleeved shirt, unbuttoned, untucked with pit stains. And I didn't even look at him. And I just went and I opened the back door. And I was afraid that Mr. Cummings would be upset. Well, fortunately, he was distracted by the hypnotic swaying of an electrical panel hanging by a wire in front of his eyes. And I helped him out of the limousine, and I said, "Mr. Cummings, I'm very pleased you're here. I'm Sam Cummings, your host." "I'm so sorry! Oh my God, I'm sorry!" And you wonder why I look the way I do. Here's a secret for you. I'm 23 years old. I'll tell you one more thing in the time I got left, and I hope I don't go over too far. Very, very recently, the world lost a remarkable man. A gentleman that I met a number of years ago, a very, very old fellow. His name was Paul Gordon. He was a staff sergeant in World War II. As a matter of fact, he was a ball turret gunner in a B-17.
Wow.
I had met him in an air show. He was wearing a cap. It said XPOW, Stalag 17B, Krems, Austria. And I was like, "Hello." I wanted to meet this man. And I asked him, "Would you tell me your story?" And he put his hands in his pockets and said, "Well, yeah, there's not really much to tell. When you're down in the ball turret, you're the last guy to find out anything because nobody really talks to you down there. But I figured about the time that the plane was upside down and the tail fell off, it might be time to go." I was hooked right then.
Yeah.
Paul started telling his story. And as he told it, a crowd started to form, getting bigger and bigger, surrounding this bent little old man, just telling about his experience. And they were craning their necks trying to hear, and they were jostling against me, and I thought, "Oh my God, I just met the Uncle Kage of the 1940s. This is so cool." That's hubris, I'm sorry, that's very conceited. I had to find this man. I actually stalked him, you might say. I was attending the air show with Gideon. A lot of you know Gideon. He's an artist. He draws things. Anyway, really draws them. So Gideon and I were talking about this, and we said, this guy never finished the story. We got to hear the rest of it. So we tracked him down, and we contacted him and said, very sheepishly, "Can we come out and hear the rest of the story?" Well, he was all for it, and he became a very good friend to both of us. I learned quite a lot. Not just about history, not just about World War II, not just about the experiences of a man, we don't want to spill it, the experiences of a man who underwent what can only be described as the nightmare of being a prisoner of war in a foreign country in a time of deprivation, and came out with his sense of humor intact. But what else he taught me, I didn't realize this until his recent passing when I reflected on it. When Paul told his story, at no time did he ever speak ill of his German captors. As a matter of fact, he always went out of his way to say nice things about him. One of the prison camp guards he described as a likable fellow. He had a detailed description in a little book that he wrote that described the 5 men who did not make it out of that B-17 when it landed. How the bodies were taken from the wreckage, how they were laid out in the morgue, they were identified, and then in great detail it described how the coffins were constructed, wreaths were placed upon them, a military band was ordered, the military band marched them to the grave sites that were dug by this and that guy. A salute was fired as they were lowered down, and these hymns were sung and these prayers were read. This was a translation of a German communique. It was the German Luftwaffe that buried these men with full military honors. They don't teach you that in history class. What Paul taught me was that even in the worst circumstances, we can still manage to see the good in the people around us who are just as much victims of the happenstance of the times as we ourselves are. He was a great man, and I loved him dearly, and I traveled up to Pennsylvania, and Gideon went with me, and we attended his funeral. His widow asked me if I would say a few words, and I said, well, I don't know, I'm not very good at that. But I did. I said pretty much what I just said to you tonight. And after the service, there was a memory book there. And Gideon and I went through and were looking at pictures of Paul. This was a man who made friends with and corresponded with the German Luftwaffe pilot who shot him down, as well as the family in France that had rescued him from the field, bleeding and dying. And we were looking through all these pictures and memories, and I turned one page and I stopped. And I said, Gideon, didn't you draw that?
What the?
And he looked. It was a picture of a wolf in a Luftwaffe uniform, a pencil sketch. And he said, yeah, that's mine. And on the next page was a fox in an RAF uniform. And I said, but did you give these to him? And Gideon said, no, I never did. I said, where would he have gotten them? And Gideon said, the only place they've ever been published was on my webpage. Here's to you, Paul. God bless you, wherever you are. Drunken old idiot and this fine musician had. I mean, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. I know you're here to hear him. I will certainly be in the blessing. So thank you once again. We'll be out in the lobby, and if you want to bring him Guinness, we would appreciate it. Mr. Foxwell, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, we thank you and bid you good night. Let's hear it for Uncle Kage. Come on.